glorious gamers out there. Welcome to the PlayersToo Podcast, the video game podcast for gamers like you, by gamers like you. You can find PlayersToo on all the social media, that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, the lot. And you can find our written content over at PlayersToo.com. That's PLAYERSTOO.com. And if you could take 5 seconds to give us 5 stars over on the Apple Podcasts app, that really helps the exposure of the show. So if you like anything that you hear here, please take 5 seconds to do that over on Apple Podcasts. Hashtag 5 seconds, 5 stars. It's going to be a thing. It's definitely going to be a thing. Also, if you could just give us a wee review, even just a thumbs up, not a big diatribe, doesn't have to be anything like that. It also really helps us out. All right, on with the show. My name is Mark Henderson. With me, as always, Mr. Lewis Camley. How's it going, Lewis?
It's going okay, Mark. I thought you'd forgotten your own name there for a second.
You thought I'd forgotten my own name?
You sort of paused and looked at me. I am doing really well. Been playing a little bit of games this week, but it's absolutely scorching here in Glasgow, and it's not video game weather whatsoever, is it?
No, it's not. It's horrible. It's horribly warm. Like, we are both in Glasgow, Scotland, home of rain, and we are both wearing shorts out of necessity, not just because we want to. It's insanely warm, stifling, and muggy, and disgusting weather to walk around in. So in Scotland, it's either pissing down with rain or disgusting and horrible and muggy and humid and terrible
Save
to walk
us.
around.
Please help us.
Yeah. Any nice weather would be good. You see, normally we have 2 weeks in July where we were like, oh, that was really nice weather.
That was summer.
What a great summer that was. Yeah. And then it's just rain and misery. But at least we're used to the rain and misery.
Yeah.
Anyway, video games, Liz. What have you been playing?
I've only really been playing a little bit more of Baba Is You and Cuphead,
Nice
both
one.
on the Switch. Yeah. Just making slow progress with each of those. But as I say, it's not been a week full of games for me. And obviously a bit more Crash Team Racing after last week's recording.
So I actually went off and did the adventure mode and unlocked like a bunch of additional characters, and also slightly to practice because you keep on absolutely scalping my arse every single time we play, and it is so sad. You win by such a great distance. It is so sad to me.
Yeah, we played the cups that we hadn't played before. I think we've still got one to do actually.
We are. So this was the cups from the second game that we'd never actually played. So these were all new to us. I've got to say, I really enjoyed the maps.
Really good tracks. Yeah.
But you were still absolutely.
I tore you apart. I tore the AI field apart. We're playing on medium difficulty, and I have heard since we started playing it from a few places that it's quite difficult, and I've just not been finding it.
Well, I completed the story mode on medium difficulty, and I mean, I thought it was pretty challenging. I've got to say, it certainly wasn't just a formality going through. And again, when we race, like, I find it quite difficult against the AI, but you just absolutely fucking smoke me. It's so sad. It is really sad. And I bought this game because I thought I was going to beat you.
The truth at last.
I've not been playing any more Sekiro for the time being. But I'm going to get back to it. I'm going to get back to it at some point. I'm still at the same point that I was last podcast. But the other game that I've been playing, Mario Maker 2. Oh my goodness, it is superb. It's really good. I'm not huge into Mario, like as a platformer. Like Mario Kart, 100%, definitely way better at Mario Kart than I am at Crash Team Racing.
Stick with that.
But like with regards to like 2D Marios and stuff like that, I've never really been super into it, but my god, it is just one of the most joyous games, and really like quite genuinely difficult and challenging in a lot of levels. Like one of the levels that I'm on just now is like really super difficult, really precise platform is required to traverse the level. And yeah, but it's just great. I don't know, there's just a joy that comes from just getting missions off of wee toads and stuff. It's great, and then just watching them build up castles and things like that in the background. It's awesome.
So you've mainly or only been doing the story mode so far?
I have exclusively been playing the story mode. I have not even attempted to make a level. I've not even looked at menu to make a level, to be completely honest with you. I have no interest in that at all. But I think that a lot of the levels coming out now look really interesting. Like a lot of the ones that I've seen on Twitter or wherever have just looked absolutely amazing. Some people's creativity in these levels is absolutely superb. I love it. So I think I'm actually probably going to be handing the game over to you after this podcast. But I think before then, maybe after the podcast, try a little bit of the online ones, just see if we can beat any of them.
Good stuff, yeah.
Because everything that I've seen looks so difficult, but like great. And I just think that allowing your community these tools to create their own levels, particularly for such a beloved franchise like Mario, is just great. It's just a really classy move by Nintendo. Obviously, they're making money hand over fist as well, which obviously helps. But it's great. It really is. It's really good fun. Because I actually wasn't convinced that it was going to be worth full price to me, but in actual fact, even without looking at that level maker stuff at all, totally worth it as far as I'm concerned. Like quite genuinely totally worth it. There's over 100 Nintendo made levels in there, and that alone, I'm like, yep, cool, sign me up.
Good stuff. It's really good. It's really good. I really like what you were saying there about just giving the fans the tools, because you imagine that there are people who've been playing Mario for like 30 years who have got loads of ideas and have over their lifetime have had loads of inspirations for Mario levels, and to be able to do that, obviously this is the second game, but coming to the Switch, it's just got a much bigger platform. So I think we're going to see we're well over 2 million levels now uploaded, so we're going to see some definitely absolutely fantastic stuff on
we talked about that in the news last week, that there's over 2 million levels already, so God knows how many there is now, you know what I mean? Maybe probably approaching 3. I would have thought, because that was only in a couple of weeks that I got to do.
Absolutely,
so, no, it was absolutely crazy, but yeah, I think I'm going to have to dive a wee bit online.
Good stuff, yes.
Yeah. All right, well, I think that's probably it from what we've been playing this week. I think it's been a busy week for both of us for various reasons. Okay, on to the news. News item number 1. New Nintendo Switch. You've said that before, I hear you say. And yes, I did. I said that last week. However, there's a new Switch, which is actually just, well, it's not really a new Switch, is it? It's more of just an update to the original Switch. But there has been an increase to the battery life. So the original Switch had a battery life of 2.5 to 6.5 hours, and then this new iteration of the Switch has a battery life of 4.5 to 9.5 hours, and this has all come because of a more efficient, more powerful processor rather than like an increased battery size, because it's in the same housing, it's the exact same case, so I don't think that you would really fit a much bigger battery inside it. I don't really think this is too much to write home about, to be honest with you. Is there any chance you'd be interested in upgrading your Switch for this?
Not for this, no. I mean, the extra battery life is good, but it's not substantial, really. It's like a nice little boost, but I don't see any reason to trade in or upgrade on a Switch already owned. The main thing really is for people who are buying one fresh, I suppose. Yeah, exactly. Just to make sure that you get a new one and you don't get an old one, because I'm not entirely sure that retailers can be trusted to be that honest about it. So these are apparently coming out in August. There's a couple of ways that you can tell the differences between them. The first of which is the model number. So the model number of the new ones will have a parentheses -01 at the end of it. The serial number will also start XKW rather than XAW from the original. And the actual box that it comes in is a red box and doesn't have a man's hand in it as the previous original box had. So yeah, if you're planning on buying a Switch, maybe wait until August actually is probably a good idea, and then make sure you get one of these new ones, because it's going to cost you the exact same amount of money. It's just an iteration. This did happen with the PlayStation. Yeah. This does happen with the Xbox. It happens with all hardware. It's just that this is right off the back of the of the launch of the Switch Lite, which interestingly is being sold as the portable one, the one that you can take everywhere, and now doesn't have the longest battery life. The new iteration of the original Switch actually has a longer battery life now, which is kind of mad. Yeah, it's been slightly botched launch of these new bits of hardware from Nintendo, but it's not going to affect sales. I think they're still going to be fine in terms of what they're trying to do. But yeah, just really make sure if you're buying one to get that new one, because you're essentially throwing your money after a lesser product otherwise. Yeah, no, you totally are. I actually seen it have a nice wee chart that kind of shows you the Switch Lite versus the original Switch versus this new iteration of the Switch, just so you know, and it actually shows you like the new box and things like that as well. So we'll put that in the show notes over at PlayersToo.com, and you can go and check that out. If you're interested in a Switch, which you should be, then just make sure that you hold off until August, and definitely make sure you get one of these new ones rather than one of the old ones. Alright, sticking with Nintendo, news item number 2. Nintendo have responded to players suffering from, quote, Joy-Con drift, and they've had this statement to say. At Nintendo, we take great pride in creating quality products, and we are continuously making improvements to them. We're aware of recent reports that some Joy-Con controllers are not responding correctly. We want our consumers to have fun with the Nintendo Switch, and if anything falls short of this goal, we always encourage them to visit support.nintendo.com so we can help.
Nintendo have also updated their customer support page with an incredibly prominent direct link to the Joy-Con repair page that you have to go through to send away your Joy-Cons for repair if you are suffering from this, like me and Lewis. But also, there has been a class action lawsuit filed in America, or against Nintendo of America, after a law firm called CSK&D were contacted by over 5,500 consumers in a 24-hour period about this, which is a crazy high number, which sort of makes me not believe them. But obviously they have some grounds to file this lawsuit. Nintendo haven't commented on the lawsuit just yet, and I don't imagine they will. I imagine there's various legal reasons why you wouldn't do that, apart from the obvious bad PR reasons, just drawing more attention to it. Yeah, so there is actually legal action being taken.
Yeah,
not saying that it's going to be won, but it's clearly worth these guys' time to take it to court at the very least.
That's it, yeah. And CSK&D, they're actually looking for more Switch owners from the US who are suffering this. They've got a form on their website basically, and you can go and fill in a few details to sort of add in your own complaints to the lawsuit. So feels like a story to watch at the moment. It's been building quite quickly over the last week or two.
The thing is that it's always been a problem for a long time, but I don't know if it's just getting out to a cumulative kind of critical mass of people that this is happening to. I know there's been a lot of chat on Reddit about it. Kotaku and Polygon have both had a lot of articles about it. I'm referencing two of them right now. Again, we'll put them in the show notes over at PlayersToo.com if you're interested in reading them. But yeah, I just think it's maybe just kind of got to this critical mass that we were like, no, hold on a fucking minute, Nintendo. Actually, these don't work correctly. Yeah. You need to do something about it, kind of thing, you know? And particularly just off the back of them launching a new model with built-in Joy-Cons that you can't just send away.
Yeah,
you know?
And they also announced I think 2 new sets of Joy-Cons as well, in different coloured Joy-Cons last week.
Yeah, totally right.
But with no suggestion that they would have this problem solved. It seems like a lot of the discussion is focusing around the kind of graphite pads that the Joy-Cons are built with, which are wearing as they're used. And
is that right?
And so it's not like something that can actually be permanently fixed. They just have to. It's a design flaw, essentially.
Oh, really? So they just replace them and they're just jaggle the same thing and so again and again.
Already been a lot of people who have reports of people having sent their Joy-Cons back to Nintendo to be fixed, getting a new set a couple of days later, and the same thing happens, including one that I read about that it was broken straight out of the box.
So it arrived back still broken?
Yeah, I imagine they went and sent their own ones back. They were probably sent refurbed ones or whatever, so that there's not a turnaround. But the problem's still there. So Nintendo isn't actually doing anything to fix this yet, and that feels like a big problem, particularly, as you say, if you buy yourself a Switch Lite in a couple of months and it stops working on that, and that essentially means the console isn't working properly.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this develops. Have you had any thoughts about sending yours back? Because I mean, mine isn't great, to be honest, but it's not affecting gameplay, whereas yours is affecting gameplay. So have you thought about it?
I mean, I've thought about it. I'm not desperate to be without my Joy-Cons for any length of time. I would probably need to buy another set or a Pro controller or some sort of third-party controller in the meantime. But over the next couple of months, I'm going to want it in handheld quite a lot. So I'm probably looking at...
Yeah, kind of your hands are tied.
Yeah, I'm probably looking at buying new Joy-Cons, which I know will stop working at some point. So that's not
that's
ideal.
The thing. Why don't you just buy a controller then? Why go for the Joy-Cons if you know that there is a potential, or damn near certainty at this point, that they're going to stop working?
Just because I'll want it for handheld. I'm travelling around a bit next month, but I might just suffer the Joy-Cons when I'm playing handheld, and then use the kickstand and buy a controller for any time that I can do that. But yeah, certainly once I'm back permanently in my flat and can just load it up on the dock, I'll be buying a controller 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
I recommend that. It's very good. You'll soon find that when you get proper analog sticks and not those tiny little Joy-Con analog sticks, it suddenly makes a world of difference to games like Cuphead and Celeste.
But not games like Crash Team Racing, which you're using a controller for and I'm using the old Joy-Cons.
Oh, do you see what I've got to put up with, ladies and gentlemen? All right, news item number 3. Stadia Pro isn't Netflix for games, says Stadia's product director, Andrei Doronichev. I get that right, Lewis?
I think so.
What did he have to say?
A closer companion would be like Xbox Live Gold or PlayStation Plus. The Pro subscribers get 4K/HDR streaming, 5.1 sound, exclusive discounts, and access to some free games. Roughly one free game per month, give or take, starting with Destiny 2.
Stadia's website also says that the Pro subscription unlocks access to an ever-expanding library of games at no extra cost. So I think the model here is that about once a month, although they're not committing to fully once a month, but they say about once a month, you're going to get a new game similarly to what you would get with an Xbox Games with Gold or a PlayStation Plus subscription. And that's starting off with Destiny 2, which, I mean, they've been given away free for quite a long time on basically all platforms. However, it seems that if you subscribe and then you unsubscribe and then resubscribe during the period of time where you're unsubscribed, any games that come out, you won't have access to even if you resubscribe. So you have to be constantly subscribed to get the games as they come out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
However, unlike PlayStation and Xbox, once a game comes out and you're subscribed, it'll always be there for you. So if you're subscribed at launch and you get Destiny 2, but then you unsubscribe for, I don't know, 3 months, then the games that come out over those 3 months you won't have. But then you sign up again in month 4, you'll still have access to the original Destiny 2 because you were signed up at that point, just not the games in between, basically.
And also, in contrast to PlayStation and Xbox, these games sort of get added to your account automatically, whereas at the moment, certainly on PlayStation Plus, you have to go and say...
Oh, do they? So they'll just straight up give it to you?
Yeah,
that's cool. I mean that's a nice touch.
I don't know why PlayStation and... I'm assuming Xbox is the same. I don't know that, which is why I'm not saying it. But PlayStation, I don't understand why they don't just add it to your account. You know, you can come and download it whenever, but why do we have to go and ask them to have it, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of odd. I don't know. That seems a sort of antiquated idea these days, I suppose. Yeah. I think Google's doing it right. Thoughts on this?
It's thrown up some more hesitation for me for Stadia.
Really? Okay.
Because
more hesitation than the loads of hesitation you already had.
Yeah, well, like, because some of their other messaging, now that we're getting a bit more clarity, sort of slightly more on board with it, I like now that they're coming out and saying this isn't this game-changing, pardon the pun, thing that is going
pun intended.
that is going to change the way we play and give you this Netflix-style library, which was certainly at launch was what a lot of the conversation was about.
Oh, totally, yeah, 100%. I think a lot of people thought that that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
But they've definitely pulled the reins in on that.
Yeah. and it's that reins pulling in that I find quite interesting, because looking at it now, the difference between the base Stadia, which obviously you have to wait a bit longer for, and Pro Stadia really doesn't come down to very much, because it sort of depends entirely then on what those games that one game every month is going to be.
Well, I think that being able to stream in 4K HDR with proper surround sound, and you get like exclusive discounts and things like that, the statement said as well. But I think that more high quality streaming is worth a lot to a lot of people. It's not worth that much to me, I've got to say. That's not something I'm overly interested in, but particularly if you're going after a lot of PC players, which obviously this is, I think that community are far more interested in that really high fidelity streaming, higher frames per second, just all the high performance stuff. They are far more interested in it than us lowly console gamers.
that's absolutely true, obviously, but if you've got a 4K monitor, then you probably already have a computer that can do these specs on Steam or whatever anyway. So that's the kind of interesting thing about Stadia at the moment, is like, who is this actually for? Because the basic mode, again, looks like, you know, for free, you're giving people streaming games at, you know, 1080 HD quality.
Yeah.
That's going to get a lot of people into the ecosystem, particularly when they get it off of the Pixel 3 and get it on other phones and other
iPhones,
and tablets and stuff.
To other tablets, yeah.
But at the
eventually
moment,
maybe onto TVs and things like that.
Yeah, directly, or you know. So, but beyond that, you know, if you're the kind of person who's determined to play at 4K with 5.1 surround and blah blah blah,
yeah, I really
you're probably already doing those things. You know? So.
Yeah, I must admit, I would be very interested to see how many subs that Pro version actually gets versus how many people will just buy like a game on Stadia. Because I think I'm going to do it. I think when it comes out, like, I mean, we'll all have Stadia base technically anyway if we've got a Google account. So I might just buy a game on it just to see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I try it maybe on different things? Hopefully we'll have iPhone support or iPad support very quickly. But even just playing it on my laptop with a third-party controller, because I probably wouldn't bother spending money to get their controller, just to kind of see how it all goes, how bad the lag is, the input lag, to see if I really notice it and see if it is kind of good enough, you know? Just another thing that I wanted to mention that sort of ties in with this Stadia news is that Ubisoft have confirmed the launch day lineup for their Uplay Plus PC subscription service. Now, this is, what is it? It's $14.99 and euros a month, but there's not actually an official UK price yet, which I don't really know why, but I imagine it'll be about that or slightly less, which arrives on September the 3rd. It does have a hugely extensive list. I'm just scrolling through it here. It's every single Assassin's Creed that you've ever played. It's even like the South Park games and stuff like that one. I didn't even realise they published that. Again, every Tom Clancy thing under the sun. You've got your Far Cry's there as well. Prince of Persia, things like that. So it's a really, really, really big list that they're launching with. So fair play to them, but for that price, I just don't really get it. Like these EA plays and things like that as well, I don't really understand it most of the time.
Yeah, paying for access to old games is one thing, and some of I wouldn't mind paying a little bit of money to be able to play those old Prince of Persia games and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, me too.
It kind of depends what quality they're running at.
It'll also have upcoming titles, including Gods and Monsters and Watch Dogs Legion added to it as well when eventually they do come out. So I
mean, that's probably the real reason to be paying for it. It's just like
early access.
Yeah, early access to, or at least a day and date access to these games for less money than you would pay for them in full. But yeah, it's part of this future that we're getting. We were talking before about whether or not something like Uplay would essentially be something that you access alongside Stadia.
Well, that's the thing is that we already know from the Ubisoft E3 conference that Stadia will support Uplay Plus, or it will be available on Stadia. So you would be paying for your Stadia Pro subscription. Or no, well, I suppose you could get it on Stadia base. So if you were paying for the Ubisoft Plus, the Uplay Plus, sorry, and you had Stadia base, then presumably you could access those games.
I think so, yeah.
Even though you weren't technically playing anything for Stadia, so that they would just be available.
Yeah.
Which I guess is quite good. I mean, if you're particularly into Ubisoft games. I mean, Ubisoft have a hell of a back catalogue, so I mean, if you were going to do this for one of these big publishers, I don't see why it wouldn't be Ubisoft, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, any thoughts on that? Is this the horrible dystopian future you were imagining?
Everything is the horrible dystopian future, Mark.
Boris Johnson got elected Prime Minister today, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, good Lord. Help us.
Anyway, the less said about that, the better, probably.
Yeah, buy video games and try and ignore the real world. I mean, this isn't for me particularly. I'm not totally signed up to this idea of subscribing for different publishers' platforms yet. Like you say, Ubisoft's is probably a better and a more varied catalogue than most, but I still think that this would lead to a situation where you pay, say it is just £15 for this, and then you pay £15-ish to EA, and the same again to
Activision.
Activision, Square, whoever. Like, that is a mounting cost. So.
Yeah, it's a lot. It definitely is a lot. But then you would say, so you mentioned 3 kind of major publishers there, and with the Activision stuff, obviously you would get all the Blizzard stuff as well. Yeah. For £45 a month. I mean, I spend more than £45 a month on games probably, and I would get access to, I don't know, maybe over 100 at that point.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, plus new releases. So
it's give and take.
I don't know. It's maybe when you start to think about it, you're like, well, maybe. But then what if a random game comes out that you can't get on one of these things, then you need to pay full price for that. Anyway, I don't know. It's murky. It's murky, and I don't like it. All right, and news item number 4. The UK gambling regulators have told MPs that loot boxes are not gambling in the UK. Oh, dearie. It just keeps on rearing its ugly head, doesn't it? I think this is like 3 or 4 weeks in a row that we've talked about this. I don't like talking about loot boxes. I really don't. I'm fed up hearing about them, and they're always in the news, and there's always something bad happening about it. But this is just a nonsense. This is just a technicality in the UK's laws that haven't been updated for the internet age, basically. It is because the quote-unquote prize that you get from a loot box does not have any kind of intrinsic monetary value or cannot be exchanged within the game for money. However, we know that these things do have intrinsic monetary value because people buy them, and therefore, to me, that has intrinsic monetary value.
I can't get my head around that.
It's crazy. And also, there's a huge kind of third-party / second-hand market for a lot of this stuff that is like quite insidious, really.
Yeah,
like, it's really not very good. And I think that these gambling regulators or MPs ignoring that is quite irresponsible, really, to be honest with you, and just putting this in the not gambling category isn't very good. However, it does seem that there is a lot of genuine concern coming out about loot boxes from the Gambling Commission. Particularly the program director said that they were constrained by the current legislation in the UK, so they can't really act because they're kind of hamstrung by their own laws, which is crazy. But he said that they would be happy to regulate these products should the law change. Another thing that came out of this was that there was unquestionable demand from second-hand markets, and they mentioned games like FIFA specifically would be in a constant battle with a second-hand market. But in actual fact, I'm not really sure that a lot of these games, even like Epic with Fortnite, or I know that CSGO was mentioned a lot in these two articles. One of these articles that were referenced in yours by the BBC, the other one's by The Guardian. Again, both of these will be in the show notes at PlayersToo.com if you want to read them. The Guardian one in particular is actually quite a good read. Yeah, so there's definitely acknowledgement here from the Gambling Commission that this is an issue. They mentioned specifically that they can prosecute if you gamble without a license or you are encouraging kids to gamble. It's just that currently the UK legislation basically says that we can't call this gambling, which to me is a total technicality. But, well, I know I've said this to you off air. I don't really know if I've said this on the podcast, but I really think that we all get stuck in this conversation about gambling with loot boxes. And to me, it doesn't really matter. Like, if we're calling loot boxes gambling or not, that's not the point. It's not the problem. The problem is that these are horrible, predatory mechanics within a game that are solely to entice money out of people who might not have it and might not fully realise what they're spending. And it's totally unregulated, so they can throw outrageous prices at you for whatever with odds that are just so fractionally small. It's unbelievable just to keep enticing you in. This is the thing about is it gambling? I think a lot of people are scared to call it gambling because it means gambling's such a bad thing, particularly because a lot of the commentators in games come out of America, and America just has a generally sort of not great relationship with gambling anyway. But I actually think that if we do call this gambling, and I do think that it basically is, I mean, you get off a technicality or whatever, right? I really wholeheartedly believe that these are bad and these are gambling. But if we do call it gambling, then that means that they can be regulated as if they're gambling. And bookies and things like that in this country in particular are regulated so severely, so strictly. They're audited all the time. Everything has to be on the up and up for bookies. And they still make an absolute killing. Like, bookies in this country are making huge amounts of money. Do you know what I mean? So it's not as if it would even necessarily affect EA. I just think that they would, or I'm just EA, the bad guys, always the bad guys, EA, but not just EA. Epic, almost everyone's guilty of this. Every big publisher is guilty of using loot boxes. They all are. I just think that if we start calling it gambling, we start acknowledging it for what it is, then suddenly, if you have loot boxes in your games, well, you can't sell that game to anyone under the age of 18 because, well, it's certainly in this country, and I know in America it's the same. At that age, you are then legally allowed to gamble. You are then deemed responsible enough by society to do what you want with your money. Anyone younger than that cannot use them. End of. Do you know what I mean? So if FIFA wants to put in loot boxes into their game, then it's going to have an 18 sticker on it, which is going to half the amount of people that are going to buy it just overnight.
More than
so
that,
they're never going to do that. They're
that's
never ever going to do it.
Either that, or they need to develop some sort of in-game age restriction system whereby players put in their date of birth at the start, or it's validated against your console account, and that
just lie on
blocks
that.
of certain things. Well, that's exactly it. So
I suppose this all comes down to as well the responsibility of the publishers, which they seem to think is absolutely fucking none, which is outrageous. Yeah. But I mean, if you're a parent, you shouldn't be expected to know all of this. But if a game has an 18 sticker on it, and your 9-year-old kid wants it, you as a responsible adult should not buy them that game. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That it's things like that. Do you know what I mean? There is a certain level of responsibility. Yeah. But the level of responsibility isn't knowing every tiny little granular thing there is to know, like us, about loot boxes. Well, that's it. You know what I mean? It's outrageous to expect parents to know that.
And at least with that information on the box, parents can make an informed decision. You know, I was bought 18 games before before I turned 18. But
I was, but I wasn't really. But your dad played games.
Well, that was it. Yeah, there was games in the house.
My dad absolutely did not. Yeah. And I didn't really. I mean, I only played like a lot of the original like GTAs and stuff like that at yours because I was yeah, I was a wee Catholic boy. I had a very sheltered upbringing.
But it seems to me just this technicality thing. I mean, you've said it all, and this is an argument that's obviously going to come up again and again and again. So we don't need to dwell on it too long here. But the second line of this BBC article I find really fascinating, and they've said the UK gambling watchdog has told MPs that it does not currently oversee the purchase of in-game content like FIFA player packs and video game loot boxes. This is because there is no official way to monetize what is inside them, and yet people are being charged to have what is inside them, just not with the specifics of what it actually is.
But I think it's the kind of after the purchase. So it's like, as opposed to being gambling, it's just like purchasing a thing. So that's what they're saying. I think it's what they're talking about is like the aftermath. So the things that you get,
it's not money
aren't in turn intrinsically worth something. So the random element just means that you're kind of getting a random quote unquote prize. Rather than it's like gambling, rather than it's like spinning a roulette.
But anything
for more tangible cash. You know what I mean. So
but anything that you buy has monetary value by the dint of you buying it. So whether or not you know what it is or not beforehand, it seems to me there's a really strong argument to say that has monetary value. In the same way that if you buy a lottery ticket and it's for a thing that you are guaranteed to win something from, so you might pay £10 and you might win 50p, but you're guaranteed a prize, that's still gambling, and it's still got monetary value. So anyway,
it's just kind of rubbish technicalities, isn't it? But a lot of people will be bringing up, what if I go and buy a packet of Pokemon cards? It's kind of a similar transaction. And I do actually think for people who are claiming, there's nothing wrong with loot boxes, like actually using that analogy is quite good for their point of view, because I think the mechanics of what are actually happening there are quite similar. But for some reason, loot boxes are so much worse. And I think it's just because it's like you're not asking for it. You know what I mean? You're not necessarily asking for these loot boxes. In fact, I don't know anyone who's going like, give us more loot boxes, Whereas if you want that packet of Pokemon stickers, you have to get up, you have to leave your house, you have to go to a shop that sells them, and you have to buy them and hand over cash in a real transaction. It's not just button. Right now you've got 5 new skins. You know what I mean? Although the mechanics of it are quite the same, it's definitely not the same. Alright, we'll just close out the news with a couple of shout outs. Firstly, Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 3 came out. This is a Switch exclusive. It's currently sitting at 74 on Metacritic. Don't be a slave to the Metacritic, because this game is particularly polarising, I think. It seems that if you don't like this game, you really don't like this game, but if you do like this game, you really, really love this game. Any commentary that I've heard on it seems to be people either like gushing about it and thinking that it's the greatest thing ever, or really being like, oh my god, this is like a PlayStation 2 game. It's crazy.
It does look like a PlayStation 2 game.
Definitely does look. I must admit, I'm definitely in the, this game definitely isn't for me camp. But don't be a slave to that Metacritic rating. If it's for you, go out and buy it. It's on Switch, and we all know everything's better on Switch. Another game that came out, a wee mobile game this time. Not a lot of coverage here on PlayersToo, but I thought this one particularly deserved a wee spotlight, was Sky, Children of the Light, which came out on iOS, and this is from That Games Company, which are famous for making Journey, which I, not very long ago, completed and was awesome. And it's also free, so, I mean, why wouldn't you?
It's free to play, and it looks a lot and sounds like it plays a lot like Journey. We're both going to jump onto this later on, I think, after...
Yeah, definitely. I think I will probably play it. Do you know what I've been playing? Oh, God, I totally forgot to mention at the top of the show. Dr. Mario World.
Oh, yeah.
Which is also a mobile game. I play a lot of mobile games on the bus to work, I'm not going to lie to you. Usually Tetris, but I've been playing Dr. Mario World, which is kind of like a weird inverted Tetris.
It's like a Mach 3, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's kind of, but it also has sort of Tetris-y elements as well. It's a sort of odd but weirdly fun game. It does have absolutely egregious microtransactions in it, though, which is the main problem that a lot of people have said about it. However, my bus journey to work in the morning really isn't very long, so I never really get to the timed paywall, or I haven't yet. Anyway, I've not got to the point where I've died, because you basically get 5 hearts and then it kind of goes up every half an hour. Like, so if I use a heart on a level and I lose, then it'll take half an hour for me to get another one. In actual fact, the microtransactions don't really affect me, and I quite like it. But I mean, it is quite a fun wee game. Anyway, should have mentioned that at the top of the show. Just one of the final shout out here. Luigi's Mansion 3 has been given release date, which is the 31st of October, which is Halloween.
Spooky.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great game. Perfect date.
Really,
for it
I
to be released.
do not understand why you're interested in this at all.
I find that fascinating.
I don't.
Just because we were talking about this off air as well when you were playing Mario Maker 2, and you said it's surprisingly good. And I feel like every Mario related game that comes out, you go, nah. And then every one that you play, you enjoy.
This is great. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know. I guess I don't have a relationship with Mario that goes back very long. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just skeptical of it. Maybe I just still look at it like when it was coming out on the N64, and I was like, oh, that's for kids. I'm over here playing Metal Gear Solid. Fuck you and your Mario. Do you know what I mean? But in actual fact, basically every Mario game that I've played is great.
It's been fantastic, yeah.
Including Dr. Mario World on the phone. No, that's definitely been the least good of the ones I've...
Yeah. One final shout out, sorry, was just that Wargroove, which has been out for Switch, Xbox and PC for a while now, and it's a sort of an Advanced Wars clone. It's like a strategy kind of tactical fighter game,
turn-based thing, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
I don't know all about this game. Apart from you can play a dog,
and you can play. I think you can control whole battalions of dogs, possibly, or have a commander dog.
Oh god, that's awesome!
It's a game that I've been quite keen to play, but I haven't picked up yet, and got a lot of good press when it got released. A lot of good scores.
It did. I don't know a great deal about it. It wasn't doing a massive amount for me, I've got to admit. Yeah. But when it came out, it was definitely getting buzz. Definitely got a wee bit of traction there.
So that the news around that is just that it is coming to PlayStation 4 at long last today. Actually, as we record, Tuesday the 23rd of July. So that'll be 2 days ago when you hear this. So yeah, check that out. If you've never heard of it particularly, go and have a look. It might be right up your street.
Okay, time for a beer.
And
then we'll be back with Topic of the Week. And we are back with Topic of the Week. Topic of the Week this week is superhero video games.
Yeah, so we're talking about that this week just because superheroes are kind of big in the news right now. There's been we're fresh off the back of San Diego Comic-Con.
Yep, absolutely.
And there's been a whole raft of interesting, new announcements and particularly around gaming coming out of that. So there was a lot of chat about the new Avengers game that Crystal Dynamics and Square are working on.
Yep, which was shown at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yeah, so we've seen there's been sort of gameplay footage now, and there's been a lot of discussion around that. We also, through that kind of week, we got news that Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man on the PS4 exclusive, is now the best-selling superhero game ever, in the US at least, overtaking Batman Arkham City and the rest of the Arkham series in particular. So yeah, we just thought it would be good to dive in, talk about which superhero games we like, what makes a great superhero video game, and what kind of IPs and genres and companies we would like to see moving into that space in the future. Obviously, we were just talking about Marvel's Ultimate Alliance as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
So there's lots going on.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think particularly because of Comic-Con, the new Avengers game coming out, Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, this Spider-Man news, superheroes just seem to be in the gaming zeitgeist just now. But why do you think, and I think this is very interesting, why do you think that Spider-Man has outsold Arkham City?
It's a big question because, the key thing to remember is that Spider-Man has only been out for, 6 months? No, a bit more than that now, about 9 months. And it's only on
less than a year
platform, whereas the Arkham games were out across everything and have been out for a long time and had reissues and stuff.
Arkham City came out in
2011?
2011,
yeah.
Yes.
So to have outsold that already is pretty major.
For a PlayStation exclusive, that just seems insane to me. But fantastic,
yeah,
fantastic, and what a game!
And that's it. And I really loved the Arkham trilogy, particularly Arkham City and Arkham Asylum. I've never played Origin, so I'm not including that.
That wasn't Rocksteady though.
No, exactly.
Doesn't count. Yeah. Doesn't count.
Cast it away.
Throw it away.
So I think quite simply, this Spider-Man game probably outsold those because Insomniac made a world that was fun to be in. They made a New York which is incredible and fun to explore, and they built all of that backed by a traversal system which is pretty much second to none. The swinging and the speed of movement in that video game are unbelievable. And secondly, and this is the thing that I think that Spider-Man game shares with the Arkham games, is that it has an incredible narrative, but Spider-Man's much more than the Arkham games. It has a real emotional punch to it, which the Arkham games tell really interesting comic book stories, and particularly the way that they use the Joker throughout that series is fantastic. And if you've never played those games, and if you've any interest in Batman, like, you should definitely go and check those out. But Spider-Man, I remember, I think you beat the game before I did, but we were talking about
but
it
not
as
by
we
very
played
long.
it.
I think we were kind of playing through it like separately, but in parallel. Yeah, and we both got platinums on it as well. I mean, it was famously one of the easiest platinums to get on PlayStation, but we both got platinums. We both went to the bother of continuing to traverse the world to go and find all everything, the collectibles and do all the side missions and stuff like that. And the main reason I wanted to keep playing it is because, as you said, the world was so fun. It was so good just to travel to the other side of the map. I always think that a great test of an open world is, do I want to use the fast travel system to get around? If the answer to that is no, you have made a superb world, as far as I'm concerned. I never used the fast travel system in Spider-Man, and I never used the fast travel system in Breath of the Wild. And both of them are two of the best worlds in a video game that we've had in a long, long time, I think. And the version of New York and Spider-Man is so close to what you imagine the real thing is. And I know that a lot of it was based on, obviously it's much, much smaller than actual Manhattan, but the way that you feel as you travel around it just feels alive, and it feels like New York, and it feels like a real living world that goes on. Like when Peter Parker's away talking to Dr. Octavius in the lab, but you feel as if the world's still happening right
Absolutely,
about you,
yeah.
I mean, it feels alive. And as you said, the narrative in the game was just unbelievable. It was, I don't know, was it better than every Spider-Man film? I've not seen Homecoming.
Yeah, big bold question.
I've not seen Homecoming, but I mean, if you think there are films that are better than it, then fair enough. But I mean, it's up there. It's got to be
I think
up there.
so.
You know?
Yeah. It definitely feels like it's up there. And just bringing real kind of emotional weight to those characters, making surprising decisions. And I think actually that point you were making there about the sense of Spider-Man's New York being alive, that is something that the Arkham games lack because of the narrative that they've created. The Arkham City that you're in, it's only full of criminals, and it's the same then with Arkham Knight. It's like a whole area has been overtaken, and there's even a point in the game, in very classic video game style, where you can't descend to street level because it's all poison gas, and so and that just feels like something that those games shows that they're dated slightly.
That's more. Yeah, I was just about to say that's totally of the time. It's not necessary. I genuinely believe that video games get better the longer we go on. You know what I mean? In general, it is. It's just natural progression, I suppose. So we shouldn't maybe criticize it too much for being a product of its time. But yeah, I mean these were all great games. Even the original Spider-Man 2 game was absolutely superb, which was tied into the Raimi films.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I will go back even further to the PS1 Spider-Man game of 2000, which I absolutely loved. Like, I've loved all these Spider-Man games. I just think that there's something about being able to swing around, although the PS1 one was very linear, very stuck in levels and things like that. It wasn't really like Spider-Man 2 and Marvel Spider-Man of 2018. But I really think that world, and I think that although I haven't played much at all of the Arkham series really, I think that the world and the narrative are just so important. So having said that, what other games would you think could be made into like a great superhero game like that? What other characters, what other
franchises,
anything like could be made into a game?
The standout to me of the sort of superhero world that hasn't really been tapped into in a particularly good way is the X-Men series.
Damn, yeah.
And I really think that we're living in a world now where there's so many squad-based games, squad-based shooters particularly. There's so many online co-op style games where if you could put together your team of 3, 4, 5 X-Men, think about the scope of that universe where you could essentially create a character and pick some traits. Actually thinking about it earlier, what struck me was Dragon Age Inquisition, which we played a bit of.
Oh yeah.
And how in that game you use sort of relationships with different people you meet along the way to build a small team of 4 that you go and travel with. And we always tried to, when we were playing it at least, to have a couple of strong guys, one more kind of stealthy person or whatever,
a healer.
And obviously a healer.
A healer in there.
And so imagine you could create an X-Men game with like a good narrative and a big world to explore, and you can just meet all these people as you go and kind of add them into your team and
I like that.
fine tune that.
You could have the academy as like the mother base, if you will, where you do your interactions and whatever, and then you can go out into the world and fight. Because another thing is that X-Men has like quite a depth of bad guys as well, which you see in the films quite a lot as well. No, I think that's good. I think that the two other ones that I would say are really missing a quality video game is Iron Man, due to Robert Downey Jr.'s incarnation of Iron Man, and Superman, just because it's Superman, are two of the biggest superheroes in comic books, and yet they totally lack any good video game. And I think it's a problem that they both fly.
Yeah.
I think that inherently makes traversal of the world very, very easy and boring. Like, Spider-Man is so engaging and so fun as you travel around because it makes you shoot the webs and it makes you feel acrobatic and fast and great, and when you time things correctly you can move at incredible speeds. But whereas if you're just Tony Stark and you're just holding X to like shoot across the whole map, it's a bit rubbish, isn't it? And similarly with Superman, and actually, well, Superman is just like, he's just a bit too strong, isn't he? He's just a bit too invulnerable to things. His character,
there's not a lot of peril there, basically. And
no, it isn't particularly. Well, I know that like evangelists will say that, oh, that's not proper canon in the comics, but the fact they can just fly around the world backwards and then time goes back as if that's how time works. Anyway, we shan't.
Let's not go into how time works.
The dumb Superman films. But I really think that those two are really missing a game. But what I was thinking particularly about Superman is that why don't we make Superman like the bad guy, similarly to what they'd done in Injustice? Wasn't there a storyline whereby you had to choose, you make a decision between basically Batman's route or Superman's route?
You enter a sort of sequence where it's that kind of classic Justice League split where Superman essentially kind of goes fascist and wants to just start murdering people who he has deemed to be, against freedom, and Batman takes the much more liberal approach. So
there you go. Why don't you have that in like a bigger world setting, and you split the Justice League characters, and you can have all the classic DC bad guys and all that. I mean, Batman alone has a huge amount, and you maybe you see the more liberal Batman having to make a difficult decision about teaming up with Lex Luthor to take down the potentially corrupted and super fascist Superman. Do you know what I mean? You could spin something like that so good, because I always thought that what NetherRealm do with their fighting games, Mortal Kombat as well, but Injustice with the superheroes, is weave these amazing narratives into what is like a basic bitch fighting game. Do you know what I mean? It's like, do you know what I mean? But they weave like these great narratives into it, and fighting games are usually fairly famous for having just garbage narratives. You know what I mean? Nobody really cares about it, but those games do it really well, and I thought that was such an interesting thing, and it was just like, oh man, just let that explode, let that idea develop far beyond. You know what I mean? I just think that'd be so cool.
And they could totally draw just from the the character models and that kind of world that they've built in those games, because there's so many fascinating performances. They draw quite heavily on the classic kind of cartoon voices and that kind of stuff for their versions of characters. So there's loads there that could be played with. Yeah, the idea of taking that narrative and blowing it up and giving you a single player experience of it would be, I think, really, really fantastic. Yeah, I hadn't considered that before. And
it's pretty cool, right?
And NetherRealm have,
and you could play as all the different
kind of thing as well.
Exactly. And you can play all the different Justice League folk, like so it'd be Batman, and I don't know who else you'd have, like Green Lantern or whatever's on your side. I don't know. But again, there would be like a nice split, and it would be like it would make for interesting boss battles as well and stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah,
you should definitely check out Injustice 2 actually for that storyline. Like, it's got both the first one and the second one.
I was meant to go and do it, I was meant to go. I actually played a bit of Injustice 1 way more than I played Injustice 2 ever.
Should we spend the last word on the Avengers game, which has got like not great feedback so far? What's your take on it up to now?
Well, I think when we done our E3 episode, we did kind of cover this a wee bit, but obviously that was in a myriad of many announcements. Look, there's been a lot said about the character models, that they don't look like these characters in the way that we expect them now to look because of the MCU. Okay, that's fair enough. Are the character models good? No, flat out. I don't think that they are. Are they worth this amount of criticism that they're getting? No. Looking at the gameplay now that we've seen from Comic-Con, the gameplay isn't blowing my socks off, but is it bad looking? Does it look bad? Like, no, like it absolutely doesn't. It could be really fun. It's kind of, I actually think it's quite difficult to tell how fun combat
just by watching
looks, by watching it. It was kind of like the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, thank you, trailer as well, that people were like, the combat looks really crap and whatever, and I was like, does this look discernibly difficult to like Dark Souls combat, like if apart from with a Star Wars skin draped over it, you know what I mean? I'm like, kind of no, like, so
And you just can never tell watching someone else play.
You can never tell until you get hands on your controller. I still definitely want to play this game. I mean, I don't know how other people feel about it. I really don't think that it deserves, at this point, the amount of flack that it's getting, because nobody's played the game yet. And it's still a fair way away. I really think that we just have to wait and see kind of thing. And we have to wait and see about two things, and I think we just discussed them in the Spider-Man thing. We need to wait and see what that world is like. We need to see like how fun it is to travel around, how fun it is to be these characters in that world, and how strong the narrative is. Because one thing you can say about the MCU is that for comic book movies, the story that they told, particularly in the Avengers and Endgame and all that, was really good and really in depth and really interwove all these different characters really well. It'll be interesting to see how they manage that. It'll also be interesting to see how this all ties in online. I know that there's already been several other characters teased.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't know how all that's going to tie in. Yeah, basically wait and see. That's how I feel about it.
Nice and lukewarm and even-handed.
I just think that the amount of shit that it's getting is just totally unjust just now. Why not let it come out first? Like, why not try it for ourselves and then
that's make a decision? And I really think that a lot of the reaction has been coloured by how recent Endgame was, and all the positivity around that meant that when that game didn't look immediately brilliant, everyone kind of went, oh dear. And as we've said, if a superhero game can get the characters right, make it an enjoyable experience, make it a fun world to be in and a fun world to fight in, make those powers great, it will always be fairly fun to play, and it's always going to have people come into it because of those stories. So yeah, wait for it, see how it goes.
Absolutely. All right, I think we'll call it a day there. You can follow PlayersToo on all the social media. That's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, the lot. You can also find our written content over at playerstoo.com. That's PLAYERSTOO.com. And if you've liked this podcast, if you like anything that you hear here, please take 5 seconds to go and give us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts. It really does make a huge difference to the exposure of the podcast. I cannot explain how much that pushes you up the charts, just getting 1 5-star. And if you're over there, you might as well give us a wee review as well. Might as well give us a little review. Again, doesn't have to be a huge big diatribe, just a wee thumbs up emoji is more than good enough for us. We would really appreciate that. That would be totally amazing from our point of view.
Remember, next week we'll be talking about Into the Breach, which if you've been listening for the last few weeks, we have been trailing as our first big play-along game. So that is on Switch and it's on Steam. Great turn-based strategy, kind of mech and monster battler. It's really good fun.
With kind of roguelite elements as well. It's a lot of things woven into one. It's a very clever game.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect word for it. It's a clever game and you'll have a lot of fun playing it. So we'll be talking about that next week. Play along this week. Give us your thoughts on social media, and we'll look forward to sharing our thoughts on that next time.
And just remember, however much Into the Breach costs on Switch is exactly how much it's worth. That is exactly how much it's worth. Is a Switch game down to a T, I think. Okay, guys, we'll see you later.
Thank you.